Hi, Jay. Welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. That's two British people in one day. I seem to be very, very popular over there. I got a lot of authors calling me from there. And you have a very interesting book. My ego screwed my acting career.
Yeah, I don't know where the idea came up from, other than it's based on my life story and the fact that my ego screwed my acting career. It kind of fit pretty well. They're married together, so I guess that's where the title came from. But it's
Okay.
not just about my acting career. I did initially write a book for actors, about actors, but then I realized there's so many great books out there, Michael Caine books, Stanislavski books, and I simply couldn't compete. So I decided to write a book about my life story, my journey. Yeah.
Okay. Usually at this point, before we get to the book, I ask the person to tell me about their life and who they are and what they've done and how you got to write the book that you have. In your case, I'm sure you have a lot to say, so why don't you introduce yourself and your past and all your achievements and how you got to where you are now?
Well, it's not easy talking about yourself. I know a lot of people think actors are really outlandish people and really full of bravado, but it's very difficult when you talk about yourself. But I was born in Bradford in Yorkshire. It's north of England, and I'm not going to give you the full life story because that will take forever. But I'll just give you a snippet. And I came from a working class background. Parents were really, really hard working folk, and I went to school, but I couldn't really fit in with the sort of archaic system that belonged in Oliver. I was a rapscallion. I really a rebel, and I got in trouble countless amount of times. I was in the headmaster's office, and back then it was the cane or the strap. I went to Catholic schools, and my fingers were dropping off by the end of that when I left school, and it wasn't the best experience of my life. I was up north, in the north of England, and I had a lot of dead end jobs. I didn't get any qualifications from school, and I ended up with countless amount of jobs, maybe 35. I either got fired
Mhm.
or made redundant. Often I got fired. There is one story where a friend of mine and I were working in a textile mill. It was where my dad was working at the time, and we were so bored. We kind of need to do some practical jokes. So he said to me, "Why don't you put some ink on the toilet seat?" So he dared me to do it. He was a bit older than me, so I went to the toilet, put some ink on the toilet seat. That was that. But there's this huge strapping guy. He was like almost 7 foot, and he went into the toilet and he came out. We didn't hear anything from it about it. Sorry. And then the next day, he corners us in both of us in the warehouse, and he said, "It took my wife 7 hours to scrub the ink off my ass, and I'm going to kill both of you." So I believe I've had this agility, this sort of improv ability right from trying to get out of problems at school, and I blamed it onto this other guy who was on holiday in Skegness at the time, uh, and it took off the heat. Um, for a while, and when the other guy came back, he got into trouble. So that is just one example of not being fitting into or conforming to school or the workplace, and I just couldn't find anything that was right for me. Yeah, it was very difficult to find a job suitable for me.
Okay. And then somehow you got into acting. Tell us how that worked out.
I'll try and I'll try and put it in a nutshell if I can. I went to the pantomime with my mum. I think I was 4 or 5 years old, and we went to see Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And I wanted to go on stage. The actress said, "Is it anyone's birthday?" And my mum was a strict Catholic, so I put my hand up, but she put it down, and I wanted to get on. And I remember crying buckets because she wouldn't allow me to get on stage. So we fast forward another 10 years. I went to a grammar school. It was an old boys' grammar school, and I was walking I think either to detention or to the maths class. I can't remember one of the two. And there was a boy performing on stage, and something drew me to it. So I
Mm.
went. I think it was detention. I went and sat next to my friend Gary, and I said, "Look, I'm gonna." I whispered, we were doing lines, and I said, "I'm gonna do drama." And he ridiculed me, and then all my friends ridiculed me, and then I kind of bowed down to that peer pressure. And then we fast forward again. I got on a dating TV show called Blind Date.
Hmm.
Very famous in the UK. I had to audition for it in downtown Huddersfield, I think it was. And yeah, we filmed in London. And as soon as I got on stage in front of the audience, that was it. I knew that I'd met, I found what I was looking for in my life, and that was to be an actor.
Now, in your book, you talk about your ego having screwed your acting career. Look,
Hmm.
all of us who are performers have a larger ego than average. What do you mean by having screwed your career with your ego? Do you mind talking about that?
I don't mind at all. Yeah, I put it all out there,
Sure. Title of
without
your
giving
book.
too many spoilers away.
Yep.
My career kind of, I moved from Yorkshire down to London and went to drama school, university, college, and I took all the acting. I got all the experience and so on. And eventually, I found an agent, and she was really good, and we started getting work, and we had a good strike rate. And as I was getting bigger and better roles on TV, film, and so on, I guess my ego was growing with it, and I wasn't realizing that I was changing, or my ego was changing me, whichever way you want to look at it. And I just it kind of got out of control, and I started to sort of waxing lyrical online, and I was really telling all and sundry that I'm going to be on this huge TV, which I've had to change the title of my book, TV series. And um, I didn't realize that I'd actually broken the contract that I mentioned, who was acting alongside, and I'd given away information that I wasn't supposed to do. And I'd already worked with this well-known director before on another show, so I had a really good connection with him. And then when it came on TV, I was there, and I told all and sundry. I've been on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever. I told everybody to tune in, and I'm sat there looking for my performance alongside a really well-known actor, probably an A-lister if you like. And yeah, the scene was cut out. All my scenes were cut out,
No.
and my heart just dropped. I know this happens in many productions for one reason or the other. But what rewinding a little bit, what happened is we were filming in a bookstore, ironically, and but I've had to change that what that is anyway in the book just for the purposes of
Of course.
But we kind of the CEO came up to me and he started to ask me questions about my character, and I had the uniform on. It's quite a well known company, and I started to like boast a little bit about, oh yeah, I've been on this, that, and the other. And he then went to the producer, and I think that also could have been one of the reasons why they didn't show my part, is because I said that I was a spy, yet was supposed to be only working in the shop, but
Hmm.
the director wanted me to be a spy
Okay.
sort of secretly. So that kind of thwarted everything as well. So I've done it in strikes: strike one, strike two, strike three, and I think I'm not sure whichever reason it was. Um, and then my career kind of it nosedived and it went downhill. And but prior to that, I was calling the shots. I was getting picked up by limousines and cars and having my own drivers and having my own trailer with my name on it, and it just completely went to my head, and I think, yeah, completely screwed it. And then I got offered a part in one of the biggest known TV film or TV series of noughties, if you like, and I accepted. I didn't even have to go audition. I'd been cast by this really well-known casting director 2 or 3 times. The only specification or speculation, there's the only thing that you had, the only thing that I had. Sorry, I'm getting a bit tongue-tied because it's a really painful moment. The only thing that I had to have was a passport with 6 months on it. Okay, and I said yes, I've got one, and right. But we were filming in 2 days' time. That was the sort of rundown. So I thought, no problem. I couldn't find my passport anyway. I was looking high and low. Lo and behold, a few hours later, I found it. It had 3 months left on it, and I couldn't go. And this is one of the biggest TV series. If I mention it, you'll know it. Everybody knows it. I put it in the book, but I changed the name. After that, and what had happened prior to that, and so on, I kind of like. I won't say I got blacklisted, but because I had to turn it down. It's really bad to turn down a production of that level, and I wasn't getting any calls, and I just turned to the whiskey, and I locked myself away. And it was really tough time for me, and I didn't speak to any friends or family for about a year. Just I gained a lot of weight, and yeah, it was really tough for me.
Mm. When did you sit down and write this book? What prompted you, and how long did it take?
There was 2 editions to this book, so I think lockdown. I think a lot of people did a lot of things in lockdown.
True.
We, you sat there, you're looking at 4 walls, and you think. And I've always kind of wanted to write. I had one really encouraging teacher at school, and she was the only one that believed in my writing. But I did a creative writing class, I think in Islington. So I've always really enjoyed the sort of the art of writing. And then I thought, I'm going to write a book for actors, a self-help book, And then I thought to myself, I can't compete with these guys, Michael Caine, Stanislavski, all these great people that have wrote. I've actually got one here to show you. It's one of my favorite books by Michael Caine. I'm not advocating it or saying, oh, I'm working for Michael Caine, but this is just to compare his book to my first book. Then it's a very interesting way. I mean, interesting to me, maybe not to other people, of how I wrote the first book. So I recorded it all on my computer. I didn't write a word. I recorded all my stories, and then I translated them into the proper editing, writing, and so on and so on. And I had an editor at the time. This was the first edition, and she said, "We're ready to go. Let's go. Let's print it." And unfortunately, I'd mentioned every company I'd worked for. I'd mentioned every person's name, ex-partners, school teachers. And if I'd have pressed yes, we won't be having this conversation now. There would have been so many, liabilities against me. It's quite interesting. My ego almost screwed my writing career because I wrote to this. I won't mention the names because I can't. But I wrote to this. I was on this famous branded TV commercial, and I wrote to them and I said, I would love to use your company when I found out I needed to get permission, I would love to use your company in this in my book. And she said, categorically, you cannot use the company, you cannot use the name, and you definitely cannot use anything of our brand in your book. And I wanted to reply back. I was really vexed a little bit. Then I realized that I'm making big mistakes. And actually, I'd wrote a chapter about. I don't mind saying this because it's not in the book anymore. But when I moved out of London, I got a part in. What's it called now? Wow, I've lost the name of the production. Alexander. Okay. And I screen grabbed the scene that I was in Alexander, and I wrote to Warner Brothers. Okay, and I said to what I wrote, and they did reply back to me in all fairness, and I said, I want to use this image in my book. And they were like very protective. You've got an image of you on set. How does that work? And it was actually a screen grab. And I completely broke all the protocol. And they never replied to me back. Obviously, so that never ended up in that book. So fast forwarding, I decided to write a book about my life. So even though the title is "My Ego Screwed My Acting Career," it's from birth to now. So it runs right throughout. It's about my family, my friends,
Mhm.
my school days, my
Mhm.
relationships, and my acting career. Yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering what you're doing now and just how screwed is your acting career?
A lot of people have said that. Not that question. It's a great question, but a lot of people say, "How screwed is it?" The thing is, when you go to IMDb, it looks like I'm very busy and I'm working on tons of stuff. But as you well know, you're in the film world. You can work on a film in 2010 and that appear on your profile in 2020.
Yep.
Okay. So that pretty much is why it looks very busy. It's not that I'm doing shed loads of work. Since that incident, I've only really taken on cameo roles and I moved into filmmaking as well. Um, my confidence has completely gone. The exact same story that I told you about going to that CEO. Okay, fast forward. I use fast forward quite a lot, but fast forward a couple of years down the line, and I went. They called me in for an audition, and I was really shocked.
Hmm.
And I got there, and I was, I just froze. I was terrible. And I once read some great advice, um, which was you should never go to an audition if you're not ready for it, because that casting director will never cast you again
Yep.
if you're not the right person for that role or you're just not mentally prepared. And I wasn't, and they never called me back. So I've lost so much confidence in my acting, and it really, really scarred my life. So it wasn't just my ego; it was the collapse of confidence as well, I guess.
Yes. Yes, that can happen. I noticed that with myself as a musician. Just a few months ago, I went and jammed with some people because I thought, hey, if I, play in a band, that'd be kind of fun. I certainly do know how to play guitar, but something was not working, and I played some of the worst lead breaks I've ever heard myself play, and as a result, they don't really want to play with me. Yeah,
Mm.
confidence is a very important thing. Once you lose that, it's kind of hard to get it back. Now, in my case, it doesn't really matter, but perhaps for you, it does matter. Like how do you earn a living now that you find it difficult to get back into television and film?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I acting is my life,
Yeah.
okay, and without it, my soul has been destroyed. Um, yeah, I did film. I moved into filmmaking, which really appeased a little bit of that, and the writing as well. But if I'm honest with you and with the world, I'm missing it dearly.
Mm.
And we see Pacino and De Niro. I'm not comparing, but we see
Yeah.
them living till 85 years old, 90.
Mhm.
The reason why, of course, they've got lots of money and they can fix their medical bills. But I think it's also because they're doing what they love to do.
Yeah.
And when you take that away from your life, then that kind of kills a part of you. And that's what's happened to me.
Hmm.
And I feel really downtrodden that I'm not doing what I did before, and I realize it's down to me to get back into it, and it's only me that can do that. No one else could do it for me.
Yeah.
So I moved into teaching drama for a while.
Mhm.
I found that interesting. I had some good students, and but once again, it wasn't um, fitting the criteria of what I wanted, and
Sure.
that is to be in front of the camera. That's what I love most of all. And this book has been a catalyst to get me back in, because when you write, as you well know, you write a memoir, um, you take a long, deep look at yourself and you look into, did I really do that? Did I say that? Did I act that way? And And it kind of really is a wake-up call. And what I've been doing, John, is I've been doing a lot of I'm not a professional editor. I can edit, but I'm okay at it. I've been doing a lot of promo videos for the book.
Yeah.
And I'm back in front of the camera, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm putting them on social media, and I plan to do that and just to get my confidence back.
Yeah.
And I've already had one offer, which is a music video, which will be filmed next year. So I'm quite pleased about that. So I think it's step by step. That's how I'm going to get back into it. But to be honest, I'm an unemployed, broke actor
Mm-hmm.
without any money. And right now, if I put the camera down, you would see a 13.5 quilt over my lap. My fire is never on. The electricity is dicky. But I've lived in worse places than this, you know.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Looking at your cover here, it's kind of fun. And perhaps this was cathartic for you. And if you wrote a book about my acting career and how it didn't work out, it would sound like you're just complaining and whining, but that's not the feeling I get from the cover of your book. So I think you're doing the right thing here.
I appreciate that. I actually have got a story. I might go off on a tangent, but me and the graphic designer, who's a friend of mine, we had a different book cover altogether, and we went to this Readsy sort of online promotion thing about a graphic designer was saying these book covers are good or not so good. Anyway, this professional of 25 years was on there, and we were going to submit my original book cover to this, but we missed the deadline. Okay, so we watched it together, and the first one came up, and this guy, I'm not going to mention his name, was like, what does it mean? I don't understand it. What does it mean? And it did this all throughout the 60 minutes of this, and we were both like, wow, we've made a mistake. So this guy was saying your front cover has to really suit what's inside your book, and has to really get the people to flip it over and to read the blurb at the back.
Mm-hmm.
So that front cover, that picture is from a film called Stray Balloon. When I first moved out of London, I did lots of shorts, and I was very naive. I wasn't trained, and that shows in my face. And I wanted to show that vulnerability, because that pretty much is what's in my book. It's about not me taking myself too seriously, not being bitter. I'm the only person to blame. I'm not blaming anyone else, and I'm not bitter about it. I just have to accept that that's what happened in my life and move on. Writing this book has been really an eye-opener to how difficult it is to write a book, and I really appreciate people out there who can write more than one. So I just can't imagine how difficult a job it is. It's not just the writing, it's the revising, it's the working with the editor,
Yeah.
you know, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So going back to your point, because I go off on a tangent, we chose yellow and like a coral red because I would say that a lot of it inside is comedy, but of course comedy is subjective. I don't want people to start thinking, oh, they're going to laugh, because it's very difficult to make people laugh. But there's a lot of comedy in the book,
Yeah.
anecdotes and so on.
Yeah. Here's a question. What's your favorite character to play? What sort of person do you portray best in your acting?
I love Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. If I was ever going to choose a role, but I love silent acting, and I think it stems back from when I was a child living with my grandparents. We watched a lot of black and whites, Harold Lloyd, Laurel Hardy, Charlie Chaplin, and I was just mesmerized. And where my friends were getting educated through Scooby Doo, I was getting educated through Charlie Chaplin.
Okay.
And I love silent acting, and if you watch that performance, I don't know how many words he says, or how much dialogue he's got, but it's very little. But you cannot take your eyes off of him. It's like a great Steve McQueen. You just mesmerized a Marlon Brando. You just
Mm-hmm.
glued to that set. You're like, wow. So the one film that I love is Castaway by Tom Hanks. Okay. Now, it's a great film up until, this is my point of view, of course, until Tom Hanks comes back and he starts talking. But when he's on the desert island, just him and Wilson, there's no dialogue. Okay. And that for me is so powerful to be able to give that performance without any words, just through actions. So yeah, to answer your question, I've been a bit long-winded. I love those types of silent acting performances. So Castaway or No Country for Old Men would be the two.
Do you like playing bad guys?
I don't think I think I've been cast once as a good guy. Maybe it's my look. I used to have the long hair. I usually have the beard, but I thought I'd do something different today. My dad does no longer alive, but he used to have the handlebar Mexican, and his anniversary was only a couple of weeks back, so maybe I did it in memory of him. I miss him, but yeah, to answer your question, I figure that the bad guys are the best guys to play, not in a narcissistic way or in an evil way, but you can really get your teeth into the character, and I think they're more memorable. Look, Christopher Lee in Dracula. Once again, it's a fantastic performance. I actually watched a documentary where he said, "Let's take the words out. You're having me speak this babble which will really destroy the film. I just don't want to speak. Just let me say very few words." And Steve McQueen, you would do the same. So, yeah, I guess I think that answers your question. I think. I believe,
for sure. Yeah. So, what do you think does it take for a budding actor to not screw their career?
It's a case of keeping your feet firmly on the ground, and it's easily said than done. Because when I once went to an audition, it was a TV commercial. I remember rightly now, and we're in the green room. There's a few actors we'd never met each other before. We all had different roles, and this one guy said, "How's it going? You know, what do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm an actor." This is one of my ego sort of replies. "I'm an actor. I'm a full-time actor." He said, "Yeah, I know you're an actor. I'm an actor. We're both here. But what do you actually do to pay the bills?" I said, "No, I'm an actor," because I'd quit my job at the time. And he looked at me, thinking, "Oh, this guy's a little bit arrogant or whatever." But I wasn't trying to be arrogant. I was just blatant to, ignorance is bliss and all. So I inquired about him, and he said, my career was going like this, and I was getting on TV, film, and this was before my career was getting like that. And he said, all of a sudden, the phone stopped ringing, and I got no performance. And this is my first gig for 2 years. I was like, 2 years? You can't wait 2 years for it. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. And he didn't go into detail, but I heard later on a story about the same guy. I'm not going to mention any names, but this is what happened. I was in a casting with a lot of guys with beards. Like, the room was jam packed. Everyone had a beard. And this guy, he came in, and how are you doing? I said, "I'm doing fine." He says, "You've been waiting long." I said, "About 30 minutes. He looked around. He was like, and he walked out. Okay. So I guess the moral of the story is that if a director, casting director, producer, or anybody working with you sees somebody who's not warm and friendly and, they can get along with, that fun is going to stop calling. So as an actor, you have got to try to get along with people. I'm not saying there's been a few incidents that I couldn't put in my book, and this wasn't me, it was other people, but I'm going to give you one of these stories. I was starting out, and I was on a film with a reasonably well-known actor and the lead actress. And it was freezing cold. It was a January minus, snowing outside. The generator had broken, and I was in the green room, and they were reading through their bit. And the actress turned around. I was having a cup of tea, keeping warm. The actress turned around and says, "Do you mind going outside?" I only had a really, really small cameo role. I didn't know her. I knew the actor because he'd been on a really well-known film. and she said, I said, sorry, I was drinking my tea. I said, you're disturbing my performance. And I said, I'm sorry, but it's freezing cold outside. I'm staying here. Okay. I stood my ground. That wasn't my ego. That was just common sense. Why would I go outside when it's freezing cold, get pneumonia? The very same actress went outside, and there was a jiffy truck selling hot food, giving the on the film set, giving the food out, and it was jacket potatoes, and she refused, and she sent the runner to get a sushi or something like that, and it was just, and that's an example of somebody else from outside looking in. Of that actress, I IMDb'd her a couple of years afterwards. She was on nothing,
Hmm.
and that is because the attitude that she was giving. I never ever gave that attitude to anyone, but I guess my ego was more about what I was telling the world how great
Right.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough business. It it's not easy, I'm sure. So, are you thinking about writing another book, or is this one off for you?
Yeah, well, yes, I am, and no. Okay, so you know yourself. You've written quite a few books, and you know how much work is involved.
Yeah.
And I would say acting is my number one passion. Then I moved on to filmmaking. I'll put that as number two, and writing is my third passion, but it is a passion. Okay, and I won't say that you know, I'm Victor Hugo or Kafka. You know, I'm not that profound. So, but you don't need to be. I think what you need is to have the passion and the want and the desire to do this. So I spent 2 years working night a day. Now, 2 years doesn't sound a lot writing a book, but it's very subjective in terms of how many hours you put into those 2 years. So
Yeah.
you could work 30 minutes a day once a week for 2 years, but I was literally working 10, 12 hours a day for 2 years. Okay, the first book never got released, so we can take that out of the equation. But um, so then after I finished this one, and I'm quite a capricious guy, and I said to my partner, I will never write a book ever again in my life.
Hmm.
I screamed the roof down,
Yeah.
and I lived in a really dodgy apartment, so it nearly fell down. And I kind of like said categorically, I will never write a book again. I got so frustrated with the revisions, the editing, the formatting, and and so on and so on. And I thought, no, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And now I've published it. I'm kind of thinking, yes, I do. um, and so I'll be honest with you, John. This is not your question, but I'd like to put this point across. You know, when you write a book, you shouldn't expect anything from anybody. But some people that you think would support you don't support you. It really hurts. Okay, so when I realized this after I released the book, I was so frustrated and down a little bit. You can see I get down a little. I'm not using my depression as a thing, but I was depressed about this situation. So I went for a walk, blow off some steam, and I came back and I got my notepad, and it's an A4, and within 4 hours, I'd written 41 pages of my second book, and I can't at this stage tell you the title or even the genre or even what it's about. All I can say is that I could spend 2 years trying to market my first book when I might as well be writing my second book, because social media, you're lost in the world of red nails and I don't know what else gets 25,000 likes. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm working on my second book right now.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, she wants to write a rom-com with me.
Okay.
Rom-coms are not really my thing, so I kind of agreed to do that. So maybe I write a third, do a sort of a combo with her and write a third book. But yeah,
So, do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's recently launched. It's jasoncroot.com.
Hmm.
And the website is the color of my book. I thought it'd be quite nice to have that combination. At the top is my show reel. Then if you scroll down, there's some images of and a blurb about my acting, some pictures and my filmmaking. And there's Buy Me a Coffee, which is not a coffee you can edit. It is a coffee cup, but it's Buy Me a Slice of Apple Pie,
Okay.
which is quite symbolic to my book, because my grandma used to make the best apple pie in the world. And I've kind of used that sort of symbolism right from my book on the good times, just to connect us. So yeah, jasoncroot.com if you fancy buying me a slice of apple pie, but you don't have to.
Sounds great. Well, Jay, it's been brilliant. I really enjoyed talking with you and about your career and where you're going to be heading from this point forward. And I certainly wish the best for you. When you do write your next book, please contact me and we'll have you back on here. I'd like repeat guests. It's always fun.
John, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and a fellow creative like yourself. I know that when you were saying what you had to say and what I was saying, you we've you've got that connect. I would love to come back on your show, and yeah, I'm grateful that you spent the time to do this video. I really really appreciate your time, effort, and energy. I know it's not easy to edit, especially when you ramble on like me. But I would love to be back as soon as my second book is announced. We can do it before the book's out, whenever you want. But
For
yeah,
sure.
I'd love to be back. Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. I don't plan on stopping this anytime soon. All right, Jay. You take good care of yourself, and we'll be speaking to you soon.
Ciao for now. It's great speaking to you, John, and see you later. All the best. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, and if you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then I invite you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment if you wish. And if you are an author, I would sure love to hear from you. Until such time, keep on writing, and remember to be kind to one another.